My name is Gabriel Paredes. I'm based in Bogota, Colombia. I'm a solution architect for the financial services industry, and I've been in the company for the last 7 years, in which I had the privilege to support many customers within Latin America in the use of Gen AI for their business, and in this case, artificial intelligence. And with me is...
Hi there, happy to be here. My name is Luis Torres. I'm a solutions architect manager for financial sector industry in Colombia. And I have been working for AWS almost 6 years, mainly helping in different kind of services, but very interested in analytics and Gen AI. So now that we tell you more details about us, we would like to know more about you, so we are going to personalize the session. So the first task for today is, if you can help us, we are going to have a small survey just to know what is your knowledge about Agentic AI and the AWS services, and that will allow us to personalize this session. So it should take 2 or 3 minutes to complete the 5 questions that we have here. So let me switch to my screen.
Dale.
The QR is working. Can someone confirm it's working fine? Okay. So we have 27 participants. We are going to give 20 seconds more, and then we are going to start with a few questions. Thirty-six. Ten seconds more.
Let's go.
All right, let's go. So the first question that we have for you is, have you deployed any AI agents in a production environment? Yes or no? So we have 50-50.
50-50, okay.
Okay, very good. Next question. What are the main challenges you had faced when deploying agents to production? It's a cause of cost, precision, latency, integration. What's the main issue that you have seen? Precision, okay, and integration.
Okay.
Okay, that will work for what we have prepared today. Next, have you worked with the Strands? We know that maybe you have heard a lot about the Strands these days, but we want to know more. If you have already used it, or if you are using different frameworks, which is fine, we are going to talk about it, but just to know.
Yeah.
So we have 25% of the people that already have used Strands. Okay. We are going to show you here some things about the Strands. Very good. Have you used Agent Core or other agent frameworks? More than other frameworks is more related to other services related to AWS for Agentic. But that's fine. Let me check how many of you already know about Agent Core. 29, so more than 50%. Okay, we are going to show some interesting things there. And finally, the last 2 questions. Which observability tools do you use for monitoring your agents? Are you using Agent Core Observability or Langfuse, Langsmith, other? Only 2 people here have been using Agent Core Observability. That's why we have this session, to show you what you can do there. It's very good. Langsmith, Langfuse, and other. A lot of people in other, okay? And finally, the last question. We told you that we are from Colombia, so we want to know if you already know where Colombia is located. Some people confuse our country with the state, so actually, it's different how you can write both words. 24. There is a lot of doubts here. Less people, 36. Okay, very good.
So you gave it that a little bit more of time.
Yeah, definitely. Someone is reviewing there. Okay.
Okay.
North of South America, very good. Central America, nope.
That's right.
I don't know, very good, thank you. So, yeah, Colombia is in the north of South America. Okay, thank you very much for your answers. That's a way as we want to know more about you so we can customize the content of the session. The agenda that we have prepared for today is start talking about Agent Core and talking about observability and why this is important. Also, we are going to build, this is a code talk, so most of the time we are building an agent. We already have an agent with different issues, and we need your help to improve the issues that we have there. And finally, we are going to share some resources that can be useful for you. So, if you mentioned that 50% of the people here mentioned that already has agents in production. In case you don't have good observability, there can be different mistakes or different bad behaviors with the agents. So what we want to achieve with this session is that more people know about how to use the AWS services to improve the visibility of the agents that you are deploying in production. So we have as a goal, when we have observability, we are looking for a way to control the non-deterministic behaviors that we have with foundational models. Basically, you can have an agent that is providing different answers to each customer, to each user. So we want to know what's happening. Also, sometimes the companies are deploying agents in production to achieve a business objective, like, for example, increase the revenue, but that's not happening. So we need to have more visibility to know what happened there. The other thing that we are going to see during the demonstration is that these systems are complex. So we have different system knowledge bases, we have different NCPs that are integrated there, and we need a way to know what is causing, for example, problems with precision or with latency. So with that said, what we are building today is a case that we already have in Colombia with a customer. They want to create a financial advisor. So this financial advisor has, for this case, and we are going to be working on that, has a chat where the customers can ask for a new credit, for a new loan, and obtain information about if the customer is eligible for a credit, if the customer has a good behavior or performance for the bank, a good score. Also, we are going to verify what can be the rate for the credit and more information. So Gabriel, or Gabo, I'm going to call you Gabo, that it's how I call you in Colombia. So Gabo, do you know what kind of issues we have right now with this agent?
Yes, I have seen with many of situations when deploying agents into production that they become like a black box for some of our customers. And basically, there are a couple of issues related. One, to the evolvability of the architecture. Like, for example, we need to move from one model to a newer model, and we don't have the right tools to measure if the quality of the responses are improving or decreasing compared to the previous model. We also see situations in which the prompts might be contradictory and the tool use becomes a little bit nuanced because the instructions can be overlapped. I have seen other situations in which the integration with external tools are not clear, and basically there is not a way to identify why the agent is taking a decision and what is reasoning to use a specific path, like, for example, in a multi-agent architecture. Okay?
Okay, very good. So we have all those kind of issues today, and with your help, we are going to improve it. But before going further, you mentioned that some of you know about Agent Core. So why Agent Core is important for this project that we are doing here?
Now, with Agent Core, we are looking for all of our customers to move away from POC, from mass POC to production with confidence. Basically, Agent Core allows us to focus on building the agentic part, to building the specific agents, and not worrying about the hosting the infrastructure. Agent Core is building in a modular way or in a component mindset in which you can implement each individual component individually based on the needs of your specific agents, okay? And that also renders basically into reducing the time to market. Basically, you can start building and let Agent Core to take most of the responsibility in hosting the infrastructure. And also the integration, you have the integration with native services and also with third-party tools for logging and monitoring.
Very good. Agent Core has different components that work individually. So if you prefer only go by one, you can do it. In the case of observability, if you already are using other frameworks, or if you are also right now using a different platform to deploy your agents, for example, EKS or ECS, but you want to use observability, you can do it. So for today, we are going to focus on Amazon Agent Core for the side del runtime, and we are going to have also the observability. Those are the main components that we are going to use today. But something that I also want to let you know is that this is enabled for different frameworks. So if you want to have different, not only Strands, but other frameworks running in the runtime, that's possible. Or if you have a different kind of observability tools, and you want to export all this information there, that's possible because we are using OpenTelemetry. So what we are going to have in the console is first a chat agent where our customers can ask different questions about a financial credit or loan. Then we are going to use Strands to define an agent and multi-agent. That Strands agent has the capabilities to integrate with different tools. And also we have created an agentic flow there. And also we have some knowledge bases to answer questions to our customers. So all these flows you are going to see in it. We want you to know this. We are going to integrate also with different external tools. And the agent that we have here, it's going to be running in Agent Core running. And the idea that we can see logs, metrics, and traces using Agent Core observability. So at the end of the session, we should improve all the issues that we have right now with the agent, but also we are going to have the possibility of see everything that is happening in a dashboard with a lot of detail. So let's build.
So let's start, and as Luis mentioned, we will require your help and also to help us build and fix the issues in this agent. So we're going to be iterating over the agent that's already running, and if you can switch to the...
Going there?
Well, first question, can you see the code?
You should.
Okay, let me make it a little bit bigger. Okay. Settings, and let me find font. Increase a little bit. Font size, I think that should be better. Okay?
Yeah,
Is
that's
okay?
better. I think so.
Perfect. Now, we're going to start with a fast run over what is built in this moment. So we have in this section an agent that is built on the Strands SDK, as we mentioned, and it basically is composed like a simple structure. We have at the top of the agent all the imports for our modules. We have the configuration for the environment variables in order to set the prompts and to set the models. You can see there are some of the things that we're going to be solving during the presentation. We have a couple of utilities for grabbing the prompts from the prompt management because the prompts are not embedded directly into the code. And basically, we have two tools, one for the calculating the loans, basically obtaining the monthly payments, and we have a tool for retrieving information from a knowledge base, okay? And then we have the creation of the 4 agents. I'm going to open one of those so you can see because the pattern is almost the same. So we have a declaration of the model that we are using, some parameters. Then we have the agent, as we create the agent and provide the tools, and then we return the agent back to a single orchestration point in which we fix and stitch all together into a swarm architecture. A swarm architecture for agents, it's like a full mesh of communication between the agents. So we have an entry point, which is the orchestrator, and then the orchestrator is responsible for handing over the transition to other agents autonomously in order to solve an issue. So as you can see, we have one agent that can check the rates based on the documentation. We have an agent that is a specialist in doing loan interest rate calculations. We have one agent that can check for eligibility, and we have an agent that's basically the responsible for orchestrating everything, okay? So far, any questions? No? Perfect. So the first thing is that I wanted to show you is that this agent is already running in Strands SDK and running in Strands runtime, in Agent Core runtime. So with the quick start and the quick start from Agent Core, you can deploy agents easily. Basically, you configure the utility to grab the code, to grab the dependencies, to set the features that you want to enable, like, for example, memory. Observability is enabled by default, by the way. If you want to change where the traces and the logs are being stored. And once the agent is deployed, you can check it with Agent Core command, Agent Core status. And you can start seeing like when was the agent created, in which account it's running, what's the runtime ID, the deployment time. This was deployed, last time was deployed today in the afternoon. And finally, you're going to see this handy command that it's here. Have you ever seen this command before? No? First time? Well, this command is part of the AWS CLI. Basically, it's for CloudWatch logs, and this is a tail command that allows us to basically follow the logs as we invoke our agent. This is not a functionality exclusive for Agent Core. It's basically for every log group that you have in your account. You can, like an old Unix system, I would say, like tail a log file from an Apache server. That's the same that you can do with the CloudWatch logs. Okay, so I'm going to copy and paste that command because that's the first observability point that we have with Agent Core. Let me copy and paste this part, and we will have a tail of commands. Okay? Now, we are not going to see anything right now because we don't have any invocations in our agents at this moment, but let's switch to our agent user interface. So this is something that we built for this session specifically. It's a pretty basic user interface built on Streamlit that allows us to select the Agent Core runtime and also the version. As you can see, we have made a couple of testing with version 27. And then we're going to fire a prompt. Let's see what happened. So what are the current mortgage rates for a 30-year fixed loan? Okay. And then we wait. Have you experienced something like this with your agents? I mean, response times super elevated.
What should be the normal time for an agent to respond? What's the time that you are expecting to have an answer? Less than 10 seconds? Less than 5? What do you think?
Depends on the use case.
Depends on the use case. But for a normal interaction, what is a good time? 10 to 20 seconds. So how long it's taking here right now? Taking more?
You can see right here.
Okay.
13.5 seconds. Now, because we left the console on the tail logs, we can see what's going on behind the scenes with this Agent Core invocation. So you can see this allows to see when Agent Core runtime receives a request, the parameters that are being sent into the request, and also you start seeing like the reasoning of the agent. Like for example, in order to find information about the mortgages, I need to question another agent, and then I need to hand over to the specific agent or the specialized agent, and then that context is passed to the second agent, that is the collaborator, and then the final response is assembled by the orchestrator agent. As you can see, everything took 13 seconds, and this is logged directly by default when you launch with a quick start on Agent Core, okay? Now, let's try to find some potential, I would say, hypothesis of why this is happening, okay?
What do you think is happening? Is there kind of things that you review when you are having an issue with latency in Agentic? Some of the things that you can review is the prompt, for example, or the variables.
Exactly. So, now, like for example, the prompt is one. Something that we have set on purpose in this example, look at this value, temperature. Now, it's quite high. And normally when you set the temperature high for any foundational model, the model becomes more creative. And basically, it has a more probabilistic distribution of words that's going to select as the output. So when we want to make the model a little bit more constrained in the probabilities, we could set the temperature back like 0.5 or even 0.2 when we want to make it more strict. There are some use cases, like for example, we might set it to 0 when we want like a prompt router or to have like a conversion from text to YAML or other structured format, because we don't want creativity in that part. The other parameter, it's about the max tokens. So max tokens allows to control the length of the response from the LLM. So in this case, we set 400 tokens, but we can decrease that to a lower value because we know that the responses are not going to be that long. Okay? What about this? What do you think about this configuration right here? Exactly. That's important, and this is kind of funny because we refer to Anthropic Sonnet 3.7 like an old model, but I mean, things move super fast in the Gen AI space. The reality is that there are newer models that we can implement and to take advantage. Like for example, Nova 2, which was released just yesterday, and also Sonnet 4.5. And also, another pattern that is quite useful when we have a multi-agent orchestrated system is that we can have like a super, I would say, a more optimized model for the orchestrator, and then we can have a more specialized model for the specific agent. So we're going to roll this change through this agent, and then we're going to push the change into production, okay? The first thing that I'm going to do is to clean all the I would say, parameters of invocation of the agent. I'm going to set everything to 0.5 on the temperature, 0.5. And even in the orchestrator, I'm going to set it like a quite low value, like 0.1, because we don't want much creativity in that part, okay? The second thing, we are going to set some of the environment variables to use the new model. So this project I have built with Agent Core basically relies on variables, external variables with this file. So basically, I can change the model right here in order to upgrade the model. So let me open my terminal once again, and let me seek and check for that model. Okay, so AWS Bedrock list. Profiles, list inference profiles. Okay. Now, inference profiles, it's a mechanism that we have in order to select, like for example, cross-region invocation or cross-region invocation for models. So basically, we use the capacity of multiple regions for a single model, and we're going to look for the endpoint of Haiku 4.5, Then we're going to grab this value here, that is US Anthropic Clouds 4.5. Okay, let me grab this one. And let me place it right here, like Bedrock Orchestrator model. I'm going to add a new variable. Okay, and let me seek for the other ones, Sonnet 4.5. Okay, and this is the endpoint.
So we are using an inference profile because it's better for resilience in case something happens in one specific region and having more capacity in case it's needed.
That's one of the reasons also to have enough capacity, because we are distributing, well, the service is distributing the inference code to our model replica in each of the regions. We can scale in capacity. Okay? Now, I have set the environment variables. Now I need to roll these changes into the code. So I'm going to copy this environment variable, and I'm going to add a new one. Orchestrator model. Now, there we have. And finally, we're going to set this change into the, let me close it right here. Let's create that into the orchestrator model. Orchestrator model, okay? So basically, we modified to use Haiku on the orchestrator, which is a lighter model compared to Sonnet, which allows to gain a little bit of time in the first response. And then we are upgrading the model from 3.7 to 4.5 in the rest of the models, okay? Now, we are ready to roll this change into production, and the way we do that is with the same agent core specification and the same agent core utility, agent status. As you can see, we already have the agent running. I have an utility for the sake of this workshop that basically use a make file to deploy the agent. So let me also roll this change here. This is not what I want.
So here we are using the agent core toolkit that allows us to deploy and simplify the deploy of new agents in production. If you haven't used it, we are going to show you the resource so you can access it. I was testing it different times, and you can deploy an agent in less than 5 minutes. So it's pretty easy. So the changes that Gabo has completed here, we can now send them to the new version of the agent. So in the runtime, we are going to see the new version.
I don't know why we don't need that much. It's a little bit annoying when it tries to recommend blocks of code that you don't need, actually. Okay, but I think we are set. We have, let me double check. We have the orchestrator model, then we have orchestrator model, and then we have that into our variables. Now, let's launch that. Okay. Now, it took the change, and we have Haiku on the orchestrator. We have Anthropic model on Sonnet in 4.5. So this is something that it happened when you might need to take into consideration. It happened to me when I was creating this workshop. By default, when you launch an agent core agent base, you need to pass all the environment variables one by one within the launch command. If it doesn't take the .env file by default, so it can go to a very difficult, I would say, fault condition that are difficult to spot, but I mean, it's in the documentation. Now, well, it was really quick, and then what it happened, it's basically, it took our project, it zipped all the dependencies that were already running, it created, there is in the local project a folder that's called Bedrock Agent Core Multi-Agent, and this zip file, as you can see by the outputs of the log, are being uploaded to S3, and then it's created a deployment package. OpenTelemetry is already running. It's part of the things that are enabled by default, and then we have our new agent created. Now, if we go back to our agent, to our user interface, let me refresh this, and we have version 28, okay? Now, let's see the difference.
Oops. Okay, there was a difference there.
For sure.
Yeah.
Let me see once again. Whoops. Let me refresh a little bit once again. It should be faster, I promise. Now, while the user interface loading, we can see that in the logs, what's happening behind the scenes. Okay? This was the successful invocation. Handing over to the new agent, handing over, and then there we go. Now, it improved from 30.5 to 12 seconds, but we already seen an improvement in this aspect. I mean, we can continue to improve it by making the prompt more specific. We can make other optimization, but we're going to get there in a couple of minutes. Now, any questions so far within what we have seen till this moment? No?
Everything? Okay.
Now, let's try with another one. Okay? And let me check 1 second. Now, let me refresh this user interface once again. And there we're going to ask for a different question. We're going to check if we are eligible for a loan.
But Gao, before going there, can you please show us the metrics that we can see in CloudWatch related to Agent Core?
For sure.
Yeah, because we were seeing the latency in the console. We were seeing that there are some problems. But also we want to show you here is that we have Agent Core observability including inside CloudWatch. So there are different kind of metrics that will allow us to improve our agents in the future. So what we can see here, Gao?
Now, we can see right now that we have 2 agents configured, 2 endpoints. We have 25 sessions created. Some of those are created with a load test script. And then we can start to see the trends in the sessions, the traces, the errors, and then we can start seeing like runtime specific metrics that are quite useful. Like for example, the number of invocations, the number of vCPU by hour, because that's the unit that the service is charged by, and also the memory consumption by gigabytes. We have 2 agents right now, the default and some other customer support agent that I created previously. And we can start to check a little bit further for the specific agents, the token usage, which is also an important value for capacity planning, the number of sessions, the number of traces, the number of errors, whether from the system, which is, for example, if the model failed to be invoked, and also from the client side, whether it's some parameter misconfigured or even a header that was misconfigured. And then we could even have the inbound and outbound authorization request count. You know, it's part of the components of Agent Core.
Something that is nice about Agent Core runtime is that you have a serverless environment. So if you are creating your agents, you don't have to worry about any assignment of vCPU or memory. Everything is happening behind the scenes and is managed by the service.
Okay, perfect. Now, we can also invoke the agent from the Agent Core console. So let me show you where you can test. Within Agent Core service, you can search for test and agent sandbox, and basically you can select the agent, the default endpoint in version 28, and then you can pass, this is JSON structure, where you can pass your prompt, and also you can pass additional parameters if you want or you need. Like, for example, headers from your application to give more context about the user. So I'm going to create another prompt right now about the eligibility for a loan. So am I eligible?
So something that we want to achieve for this financial company is that they can verify if a customer is eligible. If it's the first time that this customer is coming to the bank, that we can have an agent that verify the user history and that can confirm what kind of credit or what kind of loan can be approved for this user.
Okay, now let's fire this prompt and let's see the responses.
What was the question?
It's checking if I am eligible for a loan with a 680 credit score and a 60K annual income.
In this case, the user is providing directly the data. Most of the time, the companies will verify that.
Exactly.
Okay, and the answer?
And the answer is excelente noticia, basándome en los criterios de elegibilidad. De
Many people that can speak Spanish here? Okay, very good.
Now, this is something that can happen. It's quite common when you have multilingual agents. Normally, you have like specialized prompts based on the language because, like for example, in Spanish, there are words that have multiple meanings, and we need to have a more concise prompt for the specific language. It's a good practice, and this can happen. Okay. Now, the thing is that we already saw. Let's go to the code and let's see what could be happening. Okay. Now, let's see where are our prompts right now. Let's close this, let's close this, and let's close this one. No, it was for eligibility, so let me search for the eligibility agent. Now, so we have a Bertruk model, a model ID, a temperature, and then we have a prompt, basically get prompt, and eligibility agent prompt ID. Now, what's going on behind the scene for this specific agent? We are leveraging a functionality that's called Amazon Bedrock Prompt Management, which is a service that allows to store, version, I'll say the whole life cycle of the prompts, in which you can set default parameters for each of the prompts. So we need to seek for the eligibility prompt. Now, if we move to Amazon Bedrock console, as we have previously open here, as we can see, we have the rate checker, the loan advisor, the Spanish agent, the eligibility agent, and the loan calculator agent. Okay? So most likely what we have here is a problem with the configuration parameter for our agent. So let's check what's the agent ID. In this case, this is L8J. And let's see in our environment variables .env. Exactly, that's what we have here. So the fix is quite simple. In this case, we don't have to modify the code of the agent itself. We need to move from one parameter to another. So let's seek for this one. As you can see, you are a loan advisor specialist. It just says customer qualifications and recommend, blah, 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 blah. Let me. That should be better for you guys. And then let me copy this ID, the one that ends in 98. Let me modify that into the environment variables. Okay. And then I think we're ready to deploy once again.
So it was a problem with the parameter that someone modified and left the prompt in Spanish.
Exactly.
So we are seeing different customers implementing multilingual agents, using multi-agent to allow the customers to have conversation in the language that they prefer, but sometimes it can be useful to have specific parameters for each language, which is what we have here, and also the ability to have the prompts there. We can have the prompt inside the code, but when you have that as a parameter, you can make more simple the modification and the new versions, and also having a versioning of the prompts.
Now, it's up once again. And I want to show you a feature that's quite useful in these cases that we are testing constantly. Within the agent core, let me grab this prompt before I go. Within the agent core runtime, there is a concept of endpoints and also about versions. So every version is immutable. Once you deploy it, you cannot modify it. But then you can have multiple endpoints. It creates one that is the default one, and it rolls. The latest version is always mapped to the default, but then you can have like production, pre-production, Spanish, Latin America, States, Europe, Spain, Portugal. You can have many endpoints, and then on the application side, you can select which version of the agent is being invoked. Okay? Now, this is version 29, just got up recently. And let's test once again in the agent sandbox. Okay, I'm going to fire this invocation, and let me show you once again the logs, because we are now going to see another aspect of the observability. We're going to switch to the traces so you can see what's going on with all the visibility. Now, as you can see, the responses are flowing back in English. Great news, based on your profile and your current eligibility criteria, you are eligible for a personal loan. Thanks God. And then we have the invocation successfully completed. Now, with each invocation, you're going to see a useful parameter, which is the session ID. Okay? Session ID is created by the client side. It's a 30-long character, normally a unique identified value that you set, or you can customize the session ID. But with this session ID, let me copy and grab this value, we can go to the observability console, and then we can start to drive and to drill down into the specific of this invocation. So let me first of all, show you a part that I didn't show at the beginning of the presentation, is that this functionality of traces uses what is called X-rate traces that needs to be enabled. This is in the documentation of agent core observability. And basically, you need to enable transactional search for OpenTelemetry spans. That's what we are basically using right here. This is the open format for setting the logs in a standard way. So let me go to the observability, and let me open the sessions. All sessions.
So every time that we have a new user, we have a new session.
Exactly. Even the session can be set, it can last for at least 15 minutes, and up to 8 hours. The session can last for up to 8 hours. That's right. Let me find this session ID. Session ID equals, now. With this session, we have one trace, and the trace will allow us to map what's happening behind the scenes. We already depicted what's going on in the code, and let me open this, and let me close this little window. Yes, I don't want to see that. Now, the trace console within Agent Core Observability, as you can see, has a tree view, and also it has a timeline, so you can see what's going on. The first thing is that it was a post invocation. Then we grab the prompts from each of the 4 prompts that we're using. Then we invoke the swarm. Then we invoke the FSI loan advisor. Then we go into a loop in which we can hand over the request to the agents within the swarm. And then we invoke the model, which was Anthropic Haiku 4.5. And then we can see that we execute the event loops for each of the models. We can drill into the specific of the model invocation. Like, for example, this model invocation right here was completed in 2 seconds, 193 tokens input, and 1,000 tokens input and 100 tokens of output, and then we can start seeing what is I would say, the system prompt. You are a main FSI loan advisor. You work with some specialist agent to help customers delegate on specialists as you need. We're going to see like available specialists, rate checker, loan calculator, eligibility, and also you can see the trajectory. This is quite cool because you can see it in a graphic way what's the flow of the invocation. It's what's happening. So the first time we received the invoke runtime agent core, we received that into a post. Then we grab all the prompts. Then we invoke the loan agent, and then we invoke the eligibility. As you can see, the loop cycle, the minutes that were required in order to complete this request. Any questions, doubts so far? Yes? Sir?
Yes.
Are the events on the previous page the same ones that would be passed into memory if you had it configured?
Perfect. Now, the memory has its own observability space. So if you, in this case, we don't have the memory enabled for the sake of the purpose of the demonstration, but in agent core observability, you're going to see that we have agents and also we have memory observability. So if we had observability memory enabled, we will see like all the events for short-term and long-term memory right here.
So would you see the breakdown of the different strategies and everything as well?
Yes, you will see the breakdown of the strategy, what's being stored in each of the memories.
Yeah, but you can see it though, like if you had it all configured.
Yes, because in sessions, then you can see that information from the memory, from the detail. We don't have a memory right now. If configured, you will see it right here, and metrics from that.
12 minutos.
Okay. Now, let's try to fix another one that it's quite common also, and let's ask the model for. Let's see the last one. Now, let me ask the agent. Let me refresh this to have the latest version. Version 29. Now, regarding what is the current interest rate for a 30? Mortgage. Let me. Okay. We can see, once again, the logs that are being invoked.
And also something that we would like to have here is, for example, that the interest rate can be evaluated by the agent and provide a different rate according to the customer and allow them to obtain a credit or a loan in a few minutes. So that's why we have created different agents here. We're going to talk about the multi-agent architecture at the end.
Okay. Now, there is a slight issue with this agent. As you can see, the information we have is outdated. It's from 2023. This is something that might happen because of the maintenance of the knowledge bases in order to ingest and basically to process newer information. And also this is, as Luis mentioned, because this is an agent that provides advice, financial advisory, this can misguide the customer to take a decision because this information does not reflect the actual reality. Okay? Now, I'm going to grab the session ID once again. And now we are going back into the CloudWatch observability and the agent core observability. And I'm going to search for this session ID. Okay? And the objective in this part is that within the traces, we're going to see in the trajectory the requests that are being performed towards the knowledge base. Okay? Now, Let's move back to the end, and then
How many knowledge bases do we have here?
we have just one for the sake of the session, but the important thing is that if you had many others knowledge bases, which is a common architecture, you will see that why did the agent start selecting one over the other, and you can see even the chunks that were retrieved by the request from retrieve from the knowledge base. So let me check if I can find retrieve. No, this one here. Okay. Now, this is something that, as you said, I'm going to select retrieve, and it didn't bring any information. Okay. When I show the X-ray configuration, their default configuration is to to index 1% of the traces. Okay, you're seeing the overall trajectory, but if you set the value as the default that it is, you might encounter this that not all the information is being shown into the traces. Okay, now there is a trade-off. If you increase the value, it's going to cost more because the number of events that are being processed will increase.
Yeah, in that case, you can decide if you want to have 100% of the logs being ingested and indexed, or if you prefer, in case you have a production environment, choose less than that. Do you have a question?
How does it decide if it's not set to 100?
I'm sorry, what?
How does it decide what to record if it's not set to 100? Like, what's the algorithm, or how is it determining what events to persist and what not?
It's a random sample, basically, a sampling.
So,
You could get lucky on some runs, and you could get unlucky on others.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Okay. That just as it happened right here. Okay. Now I'm going to fix this real quick, and basically I'm going to move to the knowledge base. In this case, this is the knowledge base that we have for this session, and this is the source bucket that we have configured, and I'm going to replace all those files in a second. So let me grab it.
So this is something that is very complex for our current customers, is how to have updated all the knowledge bases. So that's something that we should see. In this case, we have Bedrock knowledge bases that are using as a source an S3 bucket, and what Gao is going to do here is to update those files. You have a question?
Yeah. Does it persist the same session ID across, like if you have gateway and memory and all that set up?
No, let me go there to see if I can hear you better, also for the rest of the people. Hola. Can you please say that again? Thank you.
Yeah, I was asking if the session ID is persisted, the same session ID is persisted across, like if you have a gateway set up or memory set up and you have traces enabled through all of them. Is it a single session ID? You can connect them together?
Yeah, that session ID, it corresponds to the agent code runtime session. So for the agent code runtime, it's going to be the same. If you have a different session from the memory side, you are also going to have the same ID.
Exactly. Basically, because you can set the session ID from the client side, you can persist the same session ID. Now, the default timeout, it's 15 minutes, if I recall well, up to 8 hours. So when the runtime dies, basically, you need to, if you create another set with the same session ID, it's going to be another runtime environment, okay? Now, I'm fixing this, and while this syncs, this was a quick fix. I want to move over to another theme in the code that might be useful for you folks also in the, I would say, to optimize for. That's basically that in this situation, as you have seen, most of our interaction is orchestrator, specialized agent, orchestrator, specialized agent. So basically, We have a full mesh environment. Let me see if I can draw something real quick right here. So we have something like this, and then this connect with this one, and this connect with this one, and this with this one, and this. I mean, it's a full mesh of communication. Now, this is the architecture that we have right now with our agent in this part. Let me show you where it is. The agent core entry point, it's a swarm with an entry point with a max hops of 20. But we can aim to simplify this in another iteration. That's basically if we switch to, for example, a workflow orchestrator, or basically to move to like a principal agent and a subordinate agent, we can remove all those connections with simpler architecture, and also that can simplify the interaction between the agents and can decrease the agent times response.
Okay, very good. So we only have 3 minutes to finish. Something that we want to show you here is that you can use Agent Core to deploy your agents, but in case you want to use a specific component, for example, if you decided only to use observability, you can use that. You were asking about memory. So from the Agent Core side, we can have logs and traces and metrics from runtime, memory, and gateway that are ingested inside Agent Core Observability. You can see that information in CloudWatch, but if you prefer to use another observability tool, you can send the logs and information because we have the OpenTelemetry format. Also, different concepts that Gabo was showing us here is that we have the session ID, is like the main data, but from that, you can have also traces, spans, sub-spans, that allow you to know what's happening with the agent and with each interaction that your users are having there. Some of the key metrics and signals, we were seeing here 3 different issues, but there are different issues that you are going to face when you have an agent in production. So here we are showing you where you can find the issue. So if you have an issue related to latency, we have a specific matrix for that. Or if you are having issues with invalid schemas, you can go to the logs and check user errors. Also, we have good information about token. I know these kind of projects are very price sensitive. I have, for example, a customer that has a good use case for Agent AI, for agents, but the problem is that this is giving them profit because it's very expensive. So you can trace here the cost and verify it is good for you.
Exactly.
And finally, we want to provide some of the resources. If you haven't used Agent Core Starter Toolkit, I fully recommend to use it because you are going to deploy an agent in a few minutes. You are going to understand more that we were showing you here. Also, if you want to see code samples about how to use, for example, other frameworks to send data to Agent Core Observability, you can do that. We were using Strands, but that's not the only option. And also, if you want to go and dive deep in Agent Core, this is a good workshop that you can check for the component that is better for you. I have, for example, some customers that prefer only using the gateway. That's okay. You can see what of the components are there. I don't know, Gabo, if you want to add something there.
No, I think that's it.
Okay, so thank you again for your attendance here. We are going to have a survey at the end of the session. I think you have there in the app. So if you have any questions, we are going to be here. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Really appreciate it.